Well, hello and welcome to episode 5 of A Load of Clark and Ball. I'm back. I'm the Clark, Dave Clark. He's back, the Ball, Tony Bullen, and we're keeping good company once again. Lee Field, the trainer, joins us as well. You can see in shot. Tony, did you have fun? Episode number 4 with John McCallum, talking all things Newcastle.
Yeah, it was great fun. I mean, John McCallum, he knows the dog game inside out. Dave, he's got a longer history in the sport than me, even though my grey hairs would suggest otherwise. But yeah, it was good fun, and it's just something new that we're trying to do. The calendar's chock-a-block with big competitions, and it's good to get the insight of other people that can do dogs as well as anyone in the country.
Absolutely. We've got Lee on. Lee's backstory is a brilliant one as well, which we'll touch on a little bit later on. But we've, of course, got Lee on because he has Adeles Duke in the big final on Friday night at Romford, the £10,000 Coral Golden Sprint. How are you, Lee?
Yeah, good, thanks. Pleased to be here.
Yeah, and how's Adeles Duke? He ran a screamer in the semi-finals. He come out the race well?
Yeah, listen, the dog's in great nick at the minute. It's like I was saying, I've said it the other day on the Racing Post TV interview, and said it to you off air, just that if the race was tonight, I'd be more than happy to go with him the way he is.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Well, let's talk all things Adeles Duke. We'll start with Steve, his owner, of course. Steve Pomeroy's been in the game a while now. He was an owner with Chris Alsop, whose kennels you are now in, obviously, but Steve's owned dogs with a few trainers. And how did you two come to team up and, of course, get Adeles Duke into the kennel?
It's an interesting one, really. Listen, we probably live about 2 miles away from each other. But I think I sold him a dog must be at least 10 years ago, probably. I've spotted him down Monmouth a few times. I went to the Irish Night of Stars last year. He had a runner in it there. We had a few beers in the hotel before and after. And then I think he was enjoying it with his dogs over there. But I think with the lockdown and what have you, couldn't get over to watch him. And he's a keen, he does like to watch his dogs. And he just rang me the one day. He told me like the situation with COVID and wanted to bring his dogs over. I think, listen, we're a kennel close to him. He likes to come and see his dogs. And he just went from there, really. He brought them 2 down and he's added a few more dogs to his strength as well.
And are you a big supporter of the kennel?
Yeah, listen, he's probably one of them owners that, listen, you know yourself, good dogs don't come cheap, and not everyone can afford good top dogs. And these are the type of dogs that get you in finals more than any others. And he ain't shy putting his hand in his pocket, put it that way.
I see you won on debut at Clonmel in July, and then made an early exit from the Irish Derby and the Juvenile Derby behind Great Name Nat. So he was taking on the cream in Ireland. You took him to Nottingham. He didn't feature on debut, but then he popped up at a big price for you. Was the Golden Sprint an event you always had in mind for the dog, Lee?
I'd be probably lying if I said yeah. The idea with it was, first of all, to get Steve a few quid back on the dog. If we could go and sneak a maiden somewhere or go, plot a race for the dog, try and pull a little bit of money back, because obviously these dogs don't pay for themselves. So we were sniffing about for that kind of opportunity. The dog sort of had a few cramping issues, and we knew from day one. We were told Martin Laney had the dog in Ireland and said this dog needs to be working all the time. It was hard to do that because the frost was down. We couldn't gallop the dog. He had an issue cramping, and obviously we were trying to fix that with his diet and with his fitness. So after he showed massive pace at Nottingham. When he come out the lids down to the corner, probably to the third bend, then the cramping kicked in because it was cold nights. So we just sat down and said, listen, Romford's on its 400 metres. The dog's pacey. He'll find his way through a couple of rounds and probably improve. We'll probably have his diet sorted by then. The fitness will come on. He's a fiercely fast dog and he should be running in them type of competition. So we just said, let's go for it.
He's a lovely light form dog. He virtually blends in with the sand in the background, but you must have been well impressed with the trial he put up off of that sectional. That was a good run to do the 24:07.
Yeah, listen, the reason we took him down there for the trial, I was going down there anyway with a rude dog and what have you. So I said, listen, let's take him down there and get a paid trial, because it's difficult at the minute. We're on for trialing Wednesdays. You ain't got enough room then rest-wise to get a run the Friday. You've got to go the week after. We were kind of running out of time, so I said, we'll throw him in and give him a paid trial. He ran well. He ran better to the eye than it looks on the card in that debut run. He showed pace. But I thought, the plan was then, do we take him again for another trial stake? But I thought if ever he gets tangled up at the corner and he don't put a run in, we ain't going to get accepted. So I thought, let's just give him a trial down there. And to be fair, on the card, 395 sectional, don't look great, but he skewed out the boxes and like to still do that time, which was probably, to be honest, I think it's probably one, if not the quickest time on that session, on a Wednesday session. So it shows the dog's pacey.
Yeah, I noticed you trolled him out of one, Lee. Did you think that's where he'd want to be, or you just did that to give him a look, knowing he would move off?
No, I was truthful. When we ran him at Nottingham, we were drawing, probably Nottingham, Swindon, we were drawing in middle. He was copying 4 and 5, and his first thought was trying to get across. At Romford, you're going to struggle to get across because it's in the longest run. In his race, when he ran in there, he did that. He ran gun barrel straight probably, but then tried to get across to the bend, and he got clipped. He did. So I said to the racing manager, I've never seen dogs wrongly tactically seed dogs. So I said, we'll seed him in one. It's there for I spoke to the racing manager when I entered the dog. I said, I will enter in rails, but you've saw the trial. If you think he's middle, we'll take middle. But I'll give the dog every opportunity to show he was a rail runner.
He came up with the boxes in the first round. As the traps open, you just see him come up with the traps. And he didn't break brilliantly in the semi. But one thing I did notice, he edged across to 3. So 3 could be an ideal draw for him in the final league.
Listen, if we could have done this draw ourselves, I wouldn't be giving Patrick the rails. I'd make it work a little bit harder. But if we could be doing this draw, this is exactly how I'd do it. The 4's got blinding early with a 5, so you'd want them sort of holding each other up. In the semi-final, I think the dog come out running, and we've slowed it down and watched it and freezed it. He was literally on the back end of Shrew Call going into the bend from the wrong trap. So I'm kind of thinking, if we produce another break like that or similar, and probably lead the inside too, nip round on the inside with them on the outside of us, the dog's not a 20-1 shot then in my eyes.
Yeah, it was a big run in the semi-final. I actually texted you after the semi, didn't I? Saying, blimey, he's taken off your lad there. And let's have a look at the semi-finals then. We'll kick off with the first one, which was won by the ground that's going to be favourite for the final, Bocco's John Joe for Patrick Janssens. He's in trap 1, and local bubbly Spark Tony is the other qualifier out wide in trap 6.
Yeah, he came into the event as one of the leading contenders. All 5 wins of Bocco's John Joe have been at Romford, Dave. And last year, November to December, the dog had a real purple patch. He reached the semi-finals of the Maiden Derby at Henlow, but he wasn't just breaking the 24-second barrier. He was smashing it, 23.60s, 23.80s for fun. And that red vest last time out made the world of difference. He showed his true colours there.
Yeah, he's desperate for the inside, and a dog that you're always going to fear, a fast one like that, Lee, in opposition, aren't you?
Yeah, listen, I'm a massive fan of the dog, Patrick. I'll tell you that. I spoke to him last week about the dog, but Patrick will be the first to admit he wouldn't be the most reliable dog Patrick's got at the cans, But when the dog puts it right, there won't be many dogs even thinking about. I don't think he'd ever be back run, but that the race against Signet Matthew showed all sorts of pace down the back straight for me. And I think if he'd swung off the last bend and kept, I think he was inside, outside, didn't know what he was doing, like a little bit erratic, he'd have been a lot closer to him.
You're absolutely right. Let's move on then to the second semi-final, which of course featured Adeles Duke in trap 5. The winner was Shrewd Call, who posted 23.89, following up a very impressive heat win. Here, dogs to focus on our traps 3, Shrewd Call, and Adeles Duke in trap 5.
Yeah, all credit to Dave Mullins. A6 to A1 was Shrewd Call last year. Dave decided to sprint him. He won 3 competitions on the spin, the Silver Salver, Coral Sprint at Hove, and Green King IPA at Yarmouth, Dave. And as I say, with a normal or fast track, this dog's going to bounce off of the 400 metres at Romford, but his dog ran a blinder to qualify.
Yeah, tricky draw. We'll move on to that for Shrewd Call. But Adeles Duke, Lee, you mentioned, he didn't ping the lids, far from it. And you got the sprinter of the year very quickly into stride and leading at the corner. But your lad not far behind him, a length, if that, into the corner, which, is big early speed.
Yeah, so I say the dog's got a lot more early that's actually showing on the card. If you looked at this, and I think even Tony, when he previewed the sprint for the start, said that he might be a dog that had to come from behind, because on the card, that's where you would judge the dog. You'd think he's that type of dog, but He's not really. Like I say, he skewed out the boxes on the one race, got up with the lids on the other race. And while all this has been going on, we took Steve took it down to George Drake to get the dog checked over pre the competition. And George says, since we ever had the dog hates it when you try and put your hand underneath and lift him up from his stomach. He'd literally take your arm off if you tried it. Just thought that was the nature of the dog, really. He's got better and better. But when we took him down to George, he said this dog's had a little bit of a nick there on that stomach. So we've been treating him. And I ain't saying that's why he's been finding 10 spots every run, but it certainly won't be doing him any harm. Do you know what I mean?
That is one of those niggles, Lee, that trainers don't obviously spot, because normally a dog will show a pronounced action with a towel or jib.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just that they're not fully stretching. It's like a bruise feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so like I say, look, listen, there's checking over a dog and then there's finding stuff like that. George, there's a reason people use him. So he got the dog down to him, and that's what he says. And George was even saying, touch and go, whether he'd run the dog in the competition. He said if it was a good dog like this and it's doing what it's doing with this injury, I'd put him away. So it was sort of one of them do we or don't we sort of things. And I thought, like, you know, obviously, the last cycles with Steve, it's his dog, and he said, listen, let's have a go of it, then we'll put the dog away. But like I say, been treating the dog, 2-3 times a day since it. Hopefully, there's a bit of improvement there.
Yeah, massive back straight pace as well from Adeles Duke just to qualify. Let's move on to the third and final semi-final then. It was Gilo Goldust who was sent off favourite, but she was to be beaten by Sam West Ballinaby Lucky in trap 1. And a little bit of an incident, I think, around the second bend here, Tony, where I think one's clipped the back end of 5 and just knocked her a little bit momentum-wise, turning into the back straight.
Yeah, it was only a slightest of clips, Dave, but when you're in a sport that deals in 100ths of a second, it's massive. All credit to Ballinaby Lucky, though. I mean, he's reached the Silver Salver final, Rose Bowl finalist, Kent Derby finalist.
He's a very fast dog.
Awesome. I mean, and once he's got up the inside of her, he's a bigger dog, so you fancy him to just come out on top. But I think Carl will be delighted with his bitch qualifying. She's never run a bad race, national sprint finalist, and she's as game as they come on the bunny. But we looked at the event from the start, and we was umming and ahhing whether it was a vintage golden sprint. Well, looking at this lineup, it certainly is a vintage golden sprint, because the cream has certainly risen to the top, Dave. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you look at the winning times of the 3 semi-finals. Bocco's John Joe's done 23.63. Shrewd Call's done 23.89. And Ballinaby Lucky there has come from off the pace to do 23.76. So the calibre of dog lining up in this final is a very, very good one. And we will now look at the draw. We've just seen Gilo Goldust ping out, Lee. We've just seen Shrewd Call ping out. I bet you was absolutely delighted when you saw you was inside that duo, because your lad's draw could have been a hell of a lot worse than what it is.
Yeah, listen, if we were drawn 5 and had them 2 inside us, it'd just be a case of like crash helmet on at the first bend and hope he swings round. We couldn't have written that draw any better if we'd have tried. Obviously, you want all the pace on the outside here. He'll have a lot easier task clearing the inside 2, who themselves are pacey, but they've not got the same early gears as the 4 and 5. So you'd want all the pace on the outside. You'd want to nip round in front, and if then you've got to shoot out down the back straight. You said yourself the dog's pacey 2 to 3. So, we'd take our chance there.
Yeah, absolutely. Just quickly, Tony, I will run down the card just quickly before we do talk about the final. 8.54, live on Racing Post Greyhound TV, Sky Channel 437, FreeSat 250. You've seen the semi-finals. A big thank you to the guys at SIS for providing us with those. Bocco's John Joe on the inside for Bev Lockhead and Graham Box, trainer Patrick Janssens. Ballinaby Lucky for Steve Lamar and Sam West, the trainer down at Hove. Trap 3 is Adeles Duke for Steve Pomeroy, Lee Phil, the trainer. Gilo Goldust for Gilo Racing, Nick Brayton and all the gang there. Cole Perry, the trainer out of Sheffield. Shrewd Call for Kelly Searle, Dave Mullins, the trainer, locally trained at Romford. And Trap 6, Bubbly Spark for the Champagne Club and Romford trainer Paul Young. It goes 8.54, £10,000 up for grabs. Great sponsorship once again from Corals. And we're looking forward to it, Tony.
It is. It's going to be a great spectacle. I'm going to be with 1 because I think he's got his draw, and I think you've got 2 outs with Bocco's John Joe. I mean, Gilo Goldust and Shrewd Call, they're going to have to lead round the first or second bent to be winning. They're not going to come from off of the pace. But Bocco's John Joe, if he leads unfortunately, I'd say it'd be lights out for all. And I do think with the right dog in behind, if he turned second, you'd still be looking over your shoulder where he was. But I did just want to ask Lee one more thing on Adeles Duke. Obviously, it's race 10 of a 12 race card on the night. What's he like as a kenneler, Lee?
Oh, listen, he's great. I mean, listen, I stuck the board up on Romford there. They've got the board there to cover the dogs up. When you're in these type of competitions, obviously you leave no stone unturned. So I put the board up there. But listen, the dog's good as gold. He'll travel down there. He'll be in the big compartment on the back of the van. Like last week, I got to Romford I was probably 45 minutes early. Obviously, you've got to allow for traffic. The dog was fast asleep, snoring in the back, and that's what he'd be like. He'll be ready when I give him a shout, and he'd be the same in the kennel.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's a massive edge. With you don't want to get one of them dogs. You go to your kennel and you're praying that there's no frothing at the mouth.
Nah, nothing.
You race.
When you say you put the board up, Lee, explain that for people watching who don't know what you're talking about.
Basically, like you get some dogs. Obviously, you got the dog can see out the kennel. With too much action. Romford's a busy place. Even though I've got no doubt they'll put the finalists probably down the bottom end of the kennel. Some dogs are up all night trying to look around, see what's there. If you've got the board on there, the dog can't see nothing. He'll have a look for 5 seconds, realise there's nothing going on, and there's nothing to see basically.
Yeah, so just a precaution from yourself. But great to hear that he's a good traveller and a good kenneler as well, with it being 8.54, great point raised by Tony. Well, the betting, I'll sort of provide you with a show. Bocco's John Joe is top price, even money. Banning to be lucky, a 10-1 chance. Adeles Duke, 20-1. Gilo Gold Dust, 9-2. Shrewd Call, 7-2. And Bubbly Spark is a 14-1 shot. What sort of price do you think Bocco's John Joe's going to go off, Tony? Is he going to be odds on?
I think the evens will be solid. To be truthful, I think your Shrewd Call could go off easily 4-5-1 on particularly on Betfair exchanges. I think that draw is tough, but I can't see Bocco's John Joe being a drifter on the night. I think your second, your Gilo Gold Dust and Shrewd Call could be easier to back than one. Yeah,
and I'm not just saying this because Lee's on. I mean, something's got to be the rag, but I think 20-1 is a little bit of an insult from what we saw. Far from disgraced in semi-final. It's not as if a dog has been beaten a distance and he's just qualified. Lee, you've hinted that yourself and Steve like to have a little tickle. There's 20-1 on offer now, but please tell me you guys are on anti-post.
Oh, listen, we're on anti-post at 50s, and then for some reason after the semi-final, it was still going into the semi-final. It was still 50s again. So obviously I had a little top up at 50s.
Double dip, we like to call that. Double dip, lovely.
Got be rude not to. And then like when he was 20s there the other day, I mean Steve rang me and said he's gone in again at 20s. I think like listen, he's the rag like you say, but he's now 20-1 shot for me anyway. Obviously, if he swung round, if he led the 1 and 2 dog up and he swung round chasing one of the sprinters, for me, he'd have a chance, and that's not putting nothing against the 2 sprinters, they're good dogs, but obviously he's a solid 4-bend dog. So listen, it's no secret I wouldn't want to be chasing Bocco's John Joe. I think I'll be wasting my time. So if you're going to chase something, you'd probably want to chase one of the sprinters down, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's probably almost been a year to the day, Lee, in which we last spoke face to face down at Central Park with the Doctor winning the Springbok. Of course, your Burgess Doc, the Springbok winner. And you're in another big final. I know that you're a trainer that's very, very hungry. And I bet you're just counting down the time now to 8.54 on Friday night.
Yeah, of course. That's what you do it for. I mean, listen, we're really busy at Monmouth Green. And probably without Monmouth, I probably wouldn't be on the platform I'm on now with a chance to attract owners and stuff like this. So, a lot of thanks to them. But this is what it's all about, lining up, against the likes of Patrick Janssens, Dave Mullage, Carl Poe, every single trainer in there really in their own right. That's what the aim is. And obviously we've got the chance now to do it Friday.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, you're in there with a chance, definitely. We're not just making up the numbers as perhaps the betting would suggest. I think he's got a great chance. Of good luck with Adeles Duke. It's not a vintage card, Tony. I'm not going to lie and say it's a belter. We start off with a couple of graded races, which surprised me. Golden Sprint final night down at Romford. But we do have a few cracking finals on the card for viewers and punters to get stuck into on Racing Post Greyhound TV. And the first of those is the 8.17 which is the Steve Simmons Sprint Final. It's over the 225. Savannah Noble is in trap 1. In the red jacket for Graham Payne. 2 is Bally Mac Burkran for Alison Kelly Pilgrim. Roxy's Mohawk for Paul Burr in 3. Adam and Kenny is in 4 for Jane Crash Yarmouth trainer. Droopy's Flights for Nathan Hunt in trap 5. And the in-form Franey Forever for Belinda Green is in trap 6. And how do you see this, Tony? We're going to see another catapult start from Franey Forever out wide?
Well, I mean, he's clearly the dog to beat. He's 5 on the spin, 5 from 6 over course and distance, and that was a career best effort last time out. 13.28 on 10 fast going. I mean, a repeat of that, Dave, then he will take the world of beating. But he is one of the shortest sprints, if not the shortest sprint in the country, so no margin for errors. And although I think Franey Forever will win, I thought Droopy's Flight ran a blinder in defeat, and there is too big a gulf in the prices, what I've seen. I didn't think that 5 deserved to be 4-1 shot in the quest to turn the tables. Absolutely.
I'm going to be with 5 here. As you know, Tony, this was a dog that I almost purchased myself off of Newcastle. Nathan's a good friend of mine. Got dogs with Nathan, got a pup going there soon, and I sort of steered him onto Droopy's Flight. He actually trolled at Toaster in the week as well, 15.91. Round there, so he's in good nick. I thought same as you, he ran well in his semi-final. Listen, if Franey Forever gets that bingo break, he'd be away and gone, and Belinda Green and her team have got him absolutely flying. The kennel's flying as well, but he's going to need to do it again out of 6. I think 3 and 4 are heading inside, and I'm the same as you. I think there's a little bit of value in the orange jacket there. Have you got a view on this race, Lee? That 225, as Tony mentioned, I think it's probably the shortest sprint in the country. Very, very little margin for error.
Yeah, listen, I've been down there with a Roo dog myself a few times. Draw's massively important as well. I think everything in the race is going to be heading left, really. I don't think anything's going to be looking to turn right out the boxes. I think if the 6 breaks like it has, and to be honest, it's breaking every single run lately. After 5-6 strides, he can angle the path it wants, and I think that'll be it then. He'll have done enough. That was a massive run last week. And I think Friday night, the track's going to be flying as well. So I think I'd be looking at another big run from it. I like Nathan's dog. I think the connections are a bit disappointed it didn't get into the Golden Sprint, especially on what it's done, in the open races previous. So, but, I think I'd be looking at the 6 dog if I was playing.
And if you had Franey Forever in the kennel, Lee, and I mean, he couldn't be in better form. He's chasing a 6-timer. He's coming through the bars every single night. All dogs are different, but I suppose it's just a case of if it's not broke, don't fix it. You just leave them alone and let them just keep doing their thing.
Yeah, that's it. It's probably the same thing that we do with the Mr. Roo dog. I mean, them sprint dogs as well, like they can run off the bed sort of thing, them sprint dogs. The Roo dog we've got here, I could probably leave him 2 or 3 weeks without doing a thing with him, and he'll still give me the same time. He's that type of dog. I mean, he loves his work, don't get me wrong. When I do it, it's not something that won't work, but I know that I can. And like you say, if it's working, just leave it.
Yeah, look forward to that sprint. 8:17, Steve Simmons Sprint Final. Might be the outside duo to focus on there. Right, 8:38 is the second final on the card. The Stuart Roberts Quicksilver Final, and an old favourite down at Romford goes in the red jacket here. Desperado Dan for Evan Herbert and Patrick Janssens. Ivy Hill Sky High for Mark Wallace in 2. Bubbly Bollinger could be a big night for the Champagne Club in 3. Trainer Paul Young. Mad Mash Bullets for Claude Gardner from Hove in 4. Sparta Master, the track record holder for Sharon Thompson in 5. And Hope's Doggy goes in 6 for Mark Wallace. Great to see Desperado Dan back to winning ways last week, Tony. I've got to be honest, I questioned whether we've sort of not passed his best, but he wasn't quite the force of old. He'd been beaten a couple of times. I was amazed he got beat at Crayford, having led. There were sort of noise of perhaps Rouse wasn't the place to be at that meeting, but he was back to winning ways in fine style last week.
Yeah, what a dog he is. I mean, he's just one of those great dogs. He loves to hear him rattling in behind. When he gets off the front, he's a kidder, and he just done it again last week. I couldn't have touched him with a barge pole, to be true. Yeah, I see him run at Crayford. I thought it was nothing to do with the bias. He was propping the bends, didn't really feature behind Sparta Master, but he's a dog. When he gets off the front, he just loves the hurly-burly, the hustle and bustle. He's like, come and try and get alongside me, and I'll just keep eking out a little bit more. And he done what he did best. But I do think Ivy Hill Sky High is a dog that's really taken to an easy six bends. This is as far as he wants to go, but if he can lead the inside runners, as much as Sparta Master on his day, he's just phenomenal. But when he's put under a bit of pressure and he turns third or fourth dog, he's not going to be posting in 34.70s, which he can do. So Ivy Hill Sky High for me. Bubbly Bollinger's made a smooth transition to the easy six bends, runner up to 10 pin in the Puppy Cup. But yeah, it's a good final, but Ivy Hill Sky High just shades it for me, Dave.
Yeah, we've got the track record holder on show here, Lee, in track 5, Sparta Master. When he's firing on all cylinders, he's unbeatable, isn't he? Around there, he's got massive clocks around Toaster as well. Sharon's done a great job with him. If he comes away and leads the corner, it'll be race over, won't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't think there's anything that can compete with that dog if it comes out running. Like you say, Patrick's dog, it's a case of like he'll go as fast as you want him to go. I think Patrick's dog. I mean, you can write him off at your own peril. I watched him last week. I was standing at the first bend, and just when they're swinging off the last, I think he just kept pulling and just doing enough. But I think if the 5 comes out running again, like you say, with the John Joe dog, it's lights out if that comes out running for everybody else.
Yeah, you wouldn't mind a kennel full of Desperado Dans, though, would you, eh? What a dog he'd been.
Hey, listen, I had Brindle, and he would be probably as close to it as you're going to get. And I'd have had a kennel full of Brindles at the time, so I'd certainly have a kennel full of these.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be with Bubbly Bollinger there. I think you can find a fast start, and looks an interesting prospect now over the 6 bends. And look out for 4 as well. I think 4 run a big race there, definitely. Wide open contest. Right, the other final is an absolute cracker as well. 2 laps of the track at Romford. It's the Tony Bailey Mercury final, 7:50. And 3M's back flying for Paul Young is on the inside of the Champagne Club in trap 1. They've also got Bubbly Angel in trap 2 and Bubbly Crystal in trap 3. Added News Golden Jacket finalist in trap 4 for Mark Wallace. Redzar Renee, also a finalist in the jacket in 5 for Tony Gifkins. And Mixed Little Gem for Michelle Brown in 6. A classy field here, Tony.
Yeah, you could run this numerous times. You could put this race on 5-6 weeks on the spin, Dave, and you'd get a different result. I mean, 3M's is a Bubbly, not in name, but is owned by the Bubbly Club. Change name when they purchase her. Very expensive, I think 20 grand, 25,000. It's been known now that she had a stomach muscle, which is a massive. That was the reason that she was running so indifferently, but she was back to her brilliant best when beating Mixed Little Gem. You've got to appreciate Mixed Little Gem bowling along in front. 3M's cruised past her and really railed well off the final couple of bends. But I like Redzar Renee. I mean, she won that E1 competition at Crayford. And then that run in the TV trophy is still memorable. On that, I think it was 2 seconds slow for a little bitch to plough through those porridge conditions was unbelievable. And then runner-up in the golden jacket. Now, I thought she should have won when turning in the handy position last week, but Bubbly Cristal just kept pulling out a little bit more. But the key to the race here is Anhid News, who I thought cramped up, led for a long way, and then something happened because as much as Bubbly Angels are an above-average sort, had no business running away from Anhid News in that fashion. I'm thinking if 4 leads the first circuit, Redzar Renee brings that stamina into play.
Yeah, 4 actually missed the break and absolutely flew to the corner and did a lot of running to get to the front. And I'm the same as you, Tony. So something certainly not quite right with Anid News. Went out like a light a little bit, but I'm sure Mark Wallace will get to the bottom of that. I mean, let's have it right with 3M's big money purchase, and a lot of people were kind of screwing their face up, saying what have they bought here? They've done their money. But interesting that came out about the injury, the stomach muscle. Obviously, we don't know the extent of it, Lee. But what we're now seeing from 3M's, it was obviously a big issue because she's now looking like the class act that she did when she first stepped up in trip.
Yeah, so you see it a lot of times. I mean, people don't know what's going on behind
exactly
in the kennel with the dogs. You know what I mean? You just look at the people who are quick to judge. You look at the form and say, waste the money. You see it all the time, especially on social media. But listen, there's a lot of things going on. Dogs settling, dogs having niggles that you've not found, but there's something there. And I suppose it all comes out later. But obviously, it was a massive run last time by the dog. So if they have found something with them, it's clearly working. It's horrible, but like you say, the 4 dog, 24.09 sectional last time tells you that it is going to get clear. But I'm a big fan of the 5. I really do like the 5 bitch. I had a few quid on it down Crayford that night that it won. I think a few raised eyebrows when they started putting it over the distance when it was as young as it was. But listen, the trainer's with the dog every day. He knows the animal. So, and obviously it was the right decision. But I think the 5, it'll just go as far as I want it to go, the 5. But like I say, 4's going to go a mile clear for me. And it's what happens in behind.
Well, I can't believe, Lee, you're not going with 4 here, because we looked down at the breeding and you was telling me same litter as Adeles Duke.
Yeah, they're like, exactly, but there's no room for sentiment when you're handing over the pound notes. So
good man.
I'll have to go with my head instead of my heart.
Okay, yeah, Tony, you was going to say there?
Yeah, that's touching on what the 3Ms had, that stomach. I mean, when dogs do run, they normally let you know where the issue is. So, like, I presume when Lee gets his dog and he's a bit miffed out of the way they've run, he'll check over their neck. You're looking at legs, muscle, injury. You're not really, your first place to go is not under the belly and looking. And sometimes even when you do check there, it's not, you've got to actually pinpoint it. You could be touching there and it could be 3 inches away. So you're like wondering what's going on. But when you actually find it, I mean, a stomach muscle would be a massive stopper. I mean, that would be holding you lengths, because you can just imagine yourself, if you've got a rib cage, you getting up and you stretch, it's instant pain that you feel. So for a greyhound to be running with that type of injury, you can now understand why she was so inconsistent.
Yeah, I'm going to be with 3Ms. I know you guys are going with Red Renee, but I've been so impressive. Massive run at Toaster in behind the St Leger Champion Small Mead, and I thought was brilliant last week. Full of running as well. When you see them rail that tightly off the last, having covered 700 metres already, she's clearly absolutely flying now, and she's got a good draw on the inside to work with. And I backed Added News last week, led and got beat, so you know what's going to happen now. Probably lead and hold on, but yeah, I'm going to be with 3Ms. They're looking forward to that then. As I say, the 4 cracking finals on the card. You can watch that live on Racing Post Greyhound TV on Friday night. We've covered the racing, we've covered the Golden Sprint final. Now I want to cover the Lee Field story, because it's an interesting one, Lee. It's not a straightforward one as well. Tell us where you are first and foremost. Where are you based?
Coventry, Chris Allsop's place, Junction 4, really, on the M6, not too far from Monman, not too far from where I live as well.
And how did it all begin for you as a trainer, and how did you end up being in Chris's kennels?
Strange one. I think what it is, it's like everything. When you start out with everything, you always want to get better at what you do and stuff like that. And I think I had plenty of dogs with Paul Salis at the time, 10, 12 dogs with Paul. And then I just thought, you introduce the owner trainer license. So I went out and shelled a few quid on the dog to have it at the house. 1 became 2, as it does. And then I think then one day I was at Nottingham running one of the dogs, and somebody mentioned that they knew of a kennel that had just come empty. Listen, it was an hour and 40 minutes from my house and from where I was running at Perry Bar. But I thought, I've got to start somewhere, so to speak. So I've got to try and get it. It worked out that I was running at Perry Bar. It weren't ideal, because I'd be leaving my house at 5 on the morning, driving nearly 2 hours to the kennels. Then I'd drive to Perry Bar for races, which is again by my house. Then I'd have to drive back to the kennel 2 hours to drop the dogs off. Then I'd have to come back home, which was by Perry Bar again. So I was doing some miles. I was basically working probably for nothing. I probably costing me money. I was having to put towards it every month, and he had like a dozen dogs there. But I needed something to get me on a platform to move on, sort of thing. And I don't think having 2 dogs in the house would have been it. So I sort of had to take one for the team for nearly a year. And then I saw Chris's advert in the, I think he had it on Graham Data, but I knew it was a massive complex, a lot to check on. So I think I badgered him for about a week, saying, would you rent me 1 kennel block? Would you rent me 20 dogs? I've probably done his head in, he rang me up and said, listen, just come down here and we'll have a word. I think he rang Tony, then the racing manager at Monmouth. Tony rang me, asked me a little bit about myself, what I was doing. And then Chris just says, come down. So I come down to Chris's house for a couple of times and had a chat with him. And I think he just sold me the dream, really, and that was it. Like it was a lot to take on, but it was a case of, let's go for it.
Do you still have fond memories of the one of the dogs that put you on the map, the Fernhill Rex, Northern Flatton, Bengate collar winner?
Yeah, listen, I think I bought him just as I moved to them kennels up in Mansfield. He was on greyhound data. I were on greyhound data, and I just pressed refresh, and the advert was there. So I think the guy had just a second put it on. So I rang him, bought the dog, and like I say, I think with having him, I mean, there's plenty of people who've had owner trainer licenses and probably nobody knows who they are or never heard of them. But because that dog were taking me here, there, and everywhere, Henlow Derby, Fengate Collar, Northern Flats, it sort of like propelled me a little bit as that's the owner trainer. I was probably one of the first ones to have that license, but then obviously having that dog as well sort of helped me a little bit as well.
They're the type of dogs that you want to, like we're talking about, you'd love 10 of Desperado Downs, you'd love a kennel full of Fernhill Rexes, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, the thing with him was he had that running style where if you picked the right race for him, he was a massive player. And what I was doing with him was I was avoiding big races. When the big guns were going somewhere else, I'd go for a little minor competition or a little 500 quid competition with him, really. Listen, I ain't saying that he weren't good enough to take them on, but Rabbit now was mopping up with the King dogs and that at the time and all that. So I just used to cherry pick races for him, really. And any kind of a track with a massive run to the corner of playing his hands like Bellevue and stuff like that. So we took our chance there, and it turned out it worked, really, so.
Yeah, my dad was the same. He says, well, the big guns are at play, make hay. And
yeah, that's it. That's it. Like I say, I was sort of, at the time I had him, as I say, I was working for nothing. I was literally, listen, you ain't going to make it pay having 12 dogs in a kennel when you're putting 25, 30 quid diesel in a day. Before you know it, you've done £1,000 a month on diesel, really, and 12 dogs, really. If you've got 12 dogs, you know for yourself, you probably only got 6 or 7 that are fit at the same time, normally. So I was having to do that with a Fernhill Rex because, in a sense, I was taking him places and I was literally having money on him to keep me going through the rest of the month, if you know what I mean. It was one of them kind of situations.
Yeah, so I love catching up with you, Lee. It's so refreshing because you're a real thinker of the game. You're thinking about what you're doing, but more than anything that seeps out from you is the hunger, the ambition to make waves in the sport as a trainer. It sounds like Chris has done you a big turn. Is he still about? Obviously, he's a former champion trainer. Do you have his ear if you ever need advice? Obviously, you're on his complex, as you call it.
Yeah, listen, I'll never stop listening to people. It was only yesterday that me and Chris were on the back having a 15, 20-minute chat about the dog, and Chris was throwing his ideas in what to do from now till Friday. I mean, listen, it ain't a case of him coming down and taking over because it's a final, but he knows that I'll listen to him because he's been there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've done that from day one. I think when I first took over the owner trainer licence, I was harassing Pat Rosney at 7:30 on the morning, asking him, I mean, the dog's done this, what do I do? The dog's done that. And then, like, Patrick will tell you now, I'll probably speak to Patrick and ask him for advice regularly. You never stop learning. You never think that you know everything and you know what you're doing. Patrick will be the first to tell you. And to be fair to him, he's never knocked me back with any advice. He'll be on the phone to me. We have 20 minutes. I mean, even the dog in the final, I was asking him about he's telling me, do this. And I'll never be afraid to ask people because even though we've come on a long way here, I still don't forget how long I've been doing this. Do you know what I mean? You're still always learning and you can learn. So, and like I say, going back to Chris, we had a chat the other day. We did when Burgess Doc got there. And it's good to surround yourself with people like that. You're lucky to have people like that around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, Lee, everyone wants to win the derby. Everyone wants to be champion trainer. But what are your aspirations as a trainer? Because you are at a big track now. You've got that contract at Monmore. You're making these big finals. You're clearly going in the right direction. Yeah,
obviously. Again, going back to Patrick, he says to me when I first started, get yourself down Romford Friday nights, get yourself out there. And so sort of a bit of advice from him doing it. It has worked. I mean, when we won that final with Burgess Stock, I probably took about 6 or 7 new dogs on that week from new owners. And that'll come from probably interviews with yourself, probably interviews like this. It does attract it, and obviously that's where we want to keep going. It's a success breeds success, it does. But you don't get that without hard work, and there's plenty of that down here. But it's all about new dogs, and nights like Friday nights really are what you live for.
And who's the team behind Lee Field, the kennel as well? Who have you got there? How many people do you employ?
6 of us now. Like we've had a bit of chopping and changing with the staff and stuff like that. It's a busy kennel. This is, like I say, we're providing runners every single day to Monmouth, trials here, there, and everywhere around the country. Open racing. It's a busy kennel, but like I say, we've got big numbers here for dogs, so you need big numbers staff wise, and we have got that here. Like I say, there's half a dozen of us. Everyone gets a day off, except for me, that is. I had to get that one in. So yeah, obviously some of Chris's staff still here. Obviously I've added a few. Got my daughter here as well. My other daughter works weekends, so it works well.
And I remember you telling me that Chris still cuts the grass as well. Do you sort of give him the nod and the wink and say it's getting a bit long out there, Chris?
I think he's got a flat tyre on the lawnmower. I did ask him the other day and he pointed to the tyre on the lawnmower, so I'll have to go and ride him again about that one in a minute.
Oh, absolutely. And you guys are based in Coventry. Anyone watching this who, is thinking, this guy's he's hungry, he's going in the right direction. The kennel's open for new owners?
Listen, it'll always be open. It's like I said to a guy the other day, a guy rang me up and said, have you got any room for a new dog? I mean, I'm always buying dogs myself. I bought 3 this week, 2 pups, 3 racers. I'm constantly buying dogs myself as I'm still an owner in the way I think. I'm looking a well-bred bitch, I'll have that, and I'm always doing that. So I've got a lot of graders here, A8, A9, for all grades. If I was full and somebody said, I've got 2 dogs here, can you take them? Listen, I'll just sell 2 more dogs. I know plenty of trainers at Perry Bar who are short on dogs, and I've just met room for dogs, basically.
Brilliant. People can get in touch with you. Lee Field Racing, you can see the Twitter handle on the screen there and through the track as well, obviously.
Yeah, social media. We do a lot on social media, Facebook page. I like to get the videos out there for the owners. I put little updates, videos of the gallop and stuff, just to show people what we got here and what we do. Do you know what I mean? We don't just take dogs to the track and put them on the bed and keep taking them.
And that's the thing, Lee. It's a 24/7 job. There ain't enough hours in the day sometimes, especially with a setup like yours. But that's what people and punters don't always realise. It's not a case of just putting a lead on a dog, take it to the track, put it in the boxes, and you either win or lose. It's the fine attention to detail, mapping out the dog's plans, feeding, keeping them right. Every dog's got a different character, and spotting just the little things that could be missed from someone else.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's all them small things, really. Like you never switch off. It's like I'll go home and I'm still on the phone at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and I'm texting people and I'm looking on the internet for things, for injuries, everything. It's sort of like there's probably about 5 hours to sleep in this game. Do you know what I mean? The rest of it's, and it's like your head's spinning. Like we've got the final Friday. You're thinking, "Oh, have I done this with the dog? Do I need to do this?" And obviously, Pat Rosley told me before, like ages ago, because it's a final, don't overcook them, you know what I mean? Don't think, I'll do this with him because it's a final, and sometimes you get carried away and think, shall I give him this or do that? And that's one of the mistakes that you can't do, really.
Yeah, I know a few that fell foul of that. They get to a big final and they start putting the extra into the dog, and it can have the adverse effect.
Probably
he's absolutely flying. He's flying, Lee, and we wish you the very best of luck in the Golden Sprint final. Thank you for joining us. Tony, we've kept good company once again here on A Load of Clark and Ball.
Yeah, top company. It's really fascinating to just get the different insights from various trainers across the country, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Well, we thank Lee. Well, best of luck to Lee as well. We thank you guys as well for watching and listening to another episode of A Load of Clark and Ball. Tony and John will be back next week to tackle the semi-finals of the ARC Northern Puppy Derby up at Newcastle. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.